Good morning. Welcome to Mirador Television, broadcasting out of the White Hart Hotel in Lewes, in East Sussex, towards the south coast of England. Not quite on it, but not far off it. I'm Keith Hayes, and with you for just the next couple of hours. This morning we shall be truncated. We shall stop broadcasting at 10:30 so that we can move, at least with a camera or two, down to the War Memorial and record the ceremony which takes place at 11 o'clock this morning in remembrance of those who fell, primarily in the Great War, that is the 1418 War, but also in the Second World War, the 39 to 45 War, and other wars in between. Those who have fallen as members of our armed forces or as civilians caught up in the battles and the fights. It is always a controversial issue that some people say that we shouldn't glorify war. I don't see it as glorifying war at all. What it is it's recalling that as many years ago, in fact, over 100 years ago now, that brave men and women left their homes and went to fight in France, in far-off fields, and they actually fought off an invading power who would, without a blink of the eye, have taken us over and made us a captive race. Let's not forget. We have with us temporarily anyway, Teresa Richardson. Welcome, Teresa. But she said, let us underscore the fact that it was for their bravery and their sacrifice, and it is not a political statement. Absolutely right, Teresa. And I hope that there are many out there who agree with us and will treat this day with the solemnity with which it should be treated, and that we give due regard to those who gave their today for our tomorrows. Right, okay, but we do have to go to the bread and butter stuff, I'm afraid. So let's start to take in the newspaper headlines. No, we will not. For a moment, what we will do is we will catch up with the latest news, because the newspaper front pages go to bed at about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. So there is a gap between now and then. It behoves us to catch up with the latest news. The newspapers didn't have weren't privy to Anyway, the top stories: recession looms as the UK economy starts to shrink, and that's just as the United States is saying that it is not faring as badly as it thought. I have a very cynical view of this whole thing, I'm afraid. What I say is that we are in the hands of a bunch of people who do not know what they're doing. And I'm not being political. I'm not pointing at the Conservatives because I think the other lot don't know either. My Bruce's millions, none of the above. I say we've got 650 people in the House of Commons, and I wouldn't give tuppence for them. And it's time that we actually started to get some fresh blood, some fresh thinking, and people who take these things seriously instead of worrying so much about whether the Prime Minister ate apple pie when he shouldn't have, or when whether the duck house is going to be taken away from the pond that they have bought at our expense. It is just not good enough, and I think that we deserve better than that. We are not a bad people. We look after our own citizens, and in many instances, we look after a lot of other citizens as well, of other countries. But the Russia-Ukraine war is what we know on a day-to-day basis of the invasion. And what we do know is the Ukrainians have put the Russians to flight in certain parts of the country, the invading force. But what bothers me is while our own Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, and a couple more from the continent said, we are going to support you all the way, Ukraine. Joe Biden, the President of the United States, said, oh, now perhaps it's time to talk of peace. Look, Mr. Biden, let me tell you, I've never had a great deal of confidence in you any more than I've got into our own politicians. But let me tell you now, is if Vladimir Putin rushes to the peace table, it's just to buy time. And we're going to go back to square one. And people are going to suffer, and we're going to have war. The Russian bear only understands tough talk. And that is what you're going to have to be prepared to go along with your European allies, Mr. Biden. You've got a strange view on a lot of things, in my view, but there we are. That's what we expect from you. Nothing finally in the House or Senate as the US midterm election count continues. So they're carrying on with the vote, and it's so key that it's only a slender majority. So Mr. Trump hasn't made any protestations about running for president at all. In the papers this morning is Kwasi Kwarteng is saying he told Liz Truss she was going too fast. Now I told her, he told me, and so on. I really think that we don't want to hear all this. We want to hear how they are getting on to handle some of the problems that we've got. Inflation being one of them. Inflation in the States has gone down a little. It's eased a little. Here, no such luck. We are not getting behind the eight ball. We are not seeing things through. We are busy squabbling about inconsequential things that will not make any difference to those of us who wake up each day and look to our leaders. Look to the sunrise. Hunt warns of tough road ahead as the shrinking UK economy faces recession. Just Stop Oil activists halt an M25 protest after days of widespread disruption. And the Daily Mail asks, why are there a bunch of coppers standing around watching one dissenter? Why don't they arrest him? Why did they let that highway be closed by one man? It's beyond belief. It is beyond belief that we are putting up with this sort of rubbish from people who should be paying attention to these problems that we are having as a nation. Hunt warns of extremely difficult decisions as the UK economy contracted 0.2%. A glimmer of hope in the economic outlook as half of Britons too scared to check their bank accounts. That's the cost of living latest. I found out I was sacked on Twitter. The ex-chancellor reveals that's Kwarteng. Oh dear. He was sacked without right. US missiles captured by Russia for Iran do not contain cutting-edge technology. Money started flying from my account. I felt like such an idiot. The rise in cost of living scams. And that's a lady who has been caught by some of these scams. And it's no life here. Albanians undeterred from seeking a life in the UK. Well, those are some of the headlines that have accumulated since the papers went to bed, as they say. Let's now go back to the papers and see what the headlines, the front pages are saying. The Times, Kwarteng, I warned Truss over her radical reforms. Worst ever NHS waiting times are costing lives. And the Times is saying the first interview given by former Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng since his sacking by Liz Truss is speaking to Talk TV. Mr. Kwarteng said he tried to warn Ms. Truss against introducing too many measures all at once as part of the mini budget. He claimed Ms. Truss ignored the concerns and that he told her, "You will have 2 months if you carry on like this." And as one commentator said this morning, in fact, she only had 2 weeks. But there we are. The row is coming out into the open. The Eye, unions battle government in a new winter of discontent. The Eye suggests that union leaders are meeting in an attempt to coordinate all their strikes so that we get a general strike, the like of which we have not seen for, almost 100 years. And the government, it comes after 100,000 civil servants join nurses, train drivers, transport workers, and others in voting in favor of walkouts. Where are they going to walk out from? Their front room. The millionaire who has bought Twitter has warned his staff, you come to work or you get fired. I'm not having people working from home. It's a soft option, a soft touch. Too damn true it is. And half the infrastructure of half the institutions of this country are in a mess. Brr, brr, brr. We value your call. You've only got 2.5 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours or 5 hours to listen. And then you're 67th in the queue and you may, with any luck, get 2 seconds with whoever it is that you're trying to get hold of. That's working from home. That is a direct result of working from home. And that is my personal view. No government agency has had the courage to admit that working from home was a necessity during lockdown. It is not a necessity now, and it is actually doing the country a great deal of harm. Calls for action as teachers reveal the scale of pupil hunger. That's the Guardian, always looking on the social side of things. It says that moldy bread, dry cereal, and even nothing to eat at all. The paper says a freeze on the eligibility threshold for free school meals could mean thousands of children are not qualifying when they should for school meals, and that teachers have described desperation of a sort they've never seen before. I don't know whether to believe this. I'm a typical cynical journalist. I don't believe everything I see in the papers or hear on television. But one of the things that I do feel very strongly about is that while I get upset when I see our leaders picking the pockets of the state to give themselves a very, very fine lifestyle, is that sometimes those people at the other end of the scale who are moaning that the food banks are running dry, that their social welfare payments are drying up, is quite often those people say that while sporting a £200 pair of trainers. I can't afford that. While sporting not quite a Rolex watch, but a decent one, I can't afford that. And all sorts of other things which they take for granted and then make a big noise and song and dance about the fact is they're not being well enough looked after. You can't have it both ways, mateys. You can't have it both ways. The Daily Express, tragedy for families if the care costs cap is delayed. The government is going to cap the costs of care, so that people don't have to sell their houses and their worldly goods to pay for the care of the elderly in nursing homes. But it looks as if the legislation that was moving towards easing that burden is now going to be delayed. And once again, the do-gooders, and I don't mean that in any nasty way, particularly on this one, are demanding various issues of a cost cap. The Daily Mail. What is the here? Don't never fear. I'm here. This is Keith Hayes, by the way. There's a senior member, I suppose, of Mirador Television. At least I draw the short straw, and when nobody else can come to work, I come. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Anyway, we are preparing ourselves for Remembrance Day today, November the 11th. The 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. And it is in honor of those who gave their lives for us in the two great wars. What is the point of these police, says the Mail. and it shows a photograph of police standing around on a motorway with a single protester who is holding up traffic on that motorway, and the police are doing nothing. And I must confess this, I begin to worry about the state of the police. It is not a healthy one at all. The Mirror, heroes denied the truth. Veterans are still fighting to get full medical records 70 years on. The Mirror says veterans of Britain's nuclear testing program have been denied proper care because their blood records were kept hidden by the state. The paper says the Cold War heroes want a public inquiry and report that Labour has backed calls for Parliament to debate the issue. Metro. BGT judge vile insults, belittle Britain. David Williams, whom I rather like, actually. I thought he was rather a good comedian and a fairly nice bloke from what I've seen of him. But then again, I do understand that veneers are put up by almost everybody in the spotlight nowadays. But basically, apparently, during his stint as a judge on Britain's Got Talent, he would make derogatory remarks, and particularly sort of racist remarks or sexist remarks and those sort of things. And it's only just now come to light. So they're having a go at him. Who knows what will happen there? The Daily Telegraph. Use G20 talks to give peace a chance, the United States tells Ukraine. This, I think, is controversial. I think Joe Biden is not a great man as far as overseas foreign policy is concerned. And he has misread both the ambition of Mr. Putin and the psyche of Mr. Putin. Because the moment that they'll let up, he will start to replenish his troops. And he's taking a bit of a pacing at the moment. And it's like telling somebody in a fight, in a ring, a boxing match, hey, just go and sit in your corner for a little while and give the other bloke a chance to recoup, because he's rather a nice chap, and we don't think he'd do any harm. Yes, yes, yes. No, no, no. Okay, the Financial Times. The Wall Street rallies as U.S. inflation falls to the lowest since January. Now, don't misunderstand. The Americans are not out of the mess, but they are showing some signs of recovery, signs which we are not. And it is something to keep our eye on, is our American cousins. They do traditionally have a better way of getting out of economic crises than we do. So what do the Americans, so do we, I would have thought. Psycho Seagull kicked my head in. Let's see, who was caught? Somebody was caught. An animal-loving woman who took pity on a gull, took her inside and to keep her warm until such time as vets arrived. Is the gull ran amok and used her wings to beat anybody in her path out of the way, but also to cause mayhem in the farmer's family, almost as if she, like me, was saying, hang on, what they're doing is a nonsense. So those are actually the main headline stories in the papers, on the front page of the papers. And it looks as if there's going to be a lot of activity in the United States today, and we'll try hard to keep you up to date as much as we possibly can. As well as we possibly can. Now, do perhaps a little bit of good cheer, if they are willing to bite the bullet a little bit, is the government has said that people such as me should continue to have dialogue with local people, but that the papers, all the materials used to govern, if you like, what's happening in the economy, is we've got to be very careful how we actually support that action. We've got to find out how much we can support if we take our foot off the pedal. Difficult to say. The Daily Star, that's just another psycho seagull kicked my head in. They're all getting on the bandwagon. Let's just take a quick look, if we can, to any local stories of interest. And there is here we go. The ambulance service declares a critical incident due to IT issues. Wow, I think we better read that a bit more. The Southeast Coast Ambulance Service of the NHS Foundation Trust declares a critical incident due to major IT issues. So the trust says that computer problems are stopping a good service from people who are charged with trying to get us all back on an even keel. Reservoir levels comparisons show that we still need a hosepipe ban. Major East Sussex Road Europeans after a crash in the early hours. And that is more or less that as far as people behind working from home. And the only other thing of significance is that the supermarket, Tesco, has issued a 3-week voucher warning. It had some sort of promotion where it gave vouchers away 2 years ago. But the worm turns, and unfortunately, the effort is needed to try and urge people to use their vouchers, their food vouchers, before the deadline is put into place, and all you've got is a worthless piece of paper. All right, okay. Now, as you know, I am a great booster of Remembrance Day and Remembrance Sunday. Basically, the sequence of events is that the people in New Haven, oh dear, everything is flipping all over the place this morning. Let's see if I can get the sequence correct. Essentially, some people were taken house prisoner at the time of the skirmish when the Ukraine war began. And there is an assessment being made of just how well that has worked with our support. And the general consensus of the opinion is it's worked okay. I suppose really it's a feather in the cap of our own GP and consultants. So let's let us take it. First of all, I'll tell you what I'm going to do to start off with is I'm going to go down to There we go. There we go. I'm back again. I am back again in our studio in the White Hart Hotel. We better just hang on. We better just take a break. I think because I can sense there's some upset at something that I've said, which is not unusual. But we really do need to show what's happening in the wide world out there. Yeah, here we go.
There you go, Keith. There's the other one.
Oh,
That's Anstal. The other one's Crony. All right.
this one's Crony. This is on Zansel.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
you are.
Cheers, Keith.
See you later. Right, okay. Well, we've been ticking away and all that. We just simply went off the air. I have no idea why. I think I managed to get us back. And we will. It says we're having difficulty streaming to Facebook. So we are in a bit of bother this morning. But we will be on YouTube and LinkedIn and Twitter and other social media apart from Facebook. Why Facebook has decided to be difficult, I have no idea. But let's. The first thing I'm going to do is go down to the park. In times of stress, we always go down to the park. So let's see if we can get a little bit of a breath back. Here I am back again, and all good things come to he who is patient and is a good boy and is virtuous, because Kevin, who looks after the bar at the White Hart, came in to test the barrels. And when he does that, he always sort of says, Keith, tell me what you think. So I believe that this is Amstel, and I'm not sure this is it could be Amstel and perhaps Foster's or Kronenberg. Anyway, I have to test. I put aside the onus of the fact that it's only 18 minutes past 9 in the morning, but duty calls and I have to test. Very good. If you come into the White Hart for a pint a little later, I think that you'll find the beers quite refreshing and quite nice this morning. He does a good job, that man, Kevin, and he chooses his team carefully to see who lets you know. Who doesn't mind having a beer for breakfast? Dear. Let's return to seriousness. Right, now, in a little under 2 hours, at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, we shall celebrate those who fell during the First World War, the Great War, the Second World War, and those wars that have been fought in between. We are not, neither this television station, nor as a nation, and indeed as a globe, are we glorifying war in any way whatsoever. But young men and women were plucked from their homes and sent to the most horrific conditions to fight for freedom. And I forget the estimate of those who died between military personnel and civilians in the First World War, but it added up to millions. It was horrific. And that we pause for a little while to actually honor those people who did fight in that horrific war and gave their lives for us is the only decent and civil thing to do. And those people who get on their high horse and twist facts to suit their own political agenda should be ashamed of themselves, is treading over dead bodies to achieve their aims. Lest we forget. Lest we forget. We must not forget. I don't know quite why we're having some problems this morning. We are, but let's hope we can keep it stable for a little while. We will be ending this morning at 10:30. It's a little over an hour's time, because we will be going down to the War Memorial in many parts, other parts of the country. It'll be the cenotaph, where the 2-minute silence, the laying of wreaths, and the acknowledgement by our civilian authorities of the sacrifice that our young soldiers and sailors and airmen made for the rest of us is recognized. Yes, you'll have those who will try to disrupt. You'll have those who will pointedly take their little children and walk through. Let me make my point. Don't make it. If you want to make a point, come on in here. Come and sit down here and have a little debate and let people know how you feel. But do not mar the ceremony that takes place in the center of the town. It is unforgivable, and apart from which, it is a sign of cowardice. Not physical cowardice, but mental and moral cowardice. And get your act together, or recognize the sacrifice that was made. Now, just to assure you, I've still got the beer here. One of the perks of the job, indeed. And I'm supposed to sample both to a comparison. Not bad at all. Now, we will on Mirador be looking at a variety of new programs in the next 10 days or so. We will remain here at the White Hart, where Sally and Cliff Harris have made us most welcome, and their staff, two mainstays, well, there's Kevin, of course, who feeds me the beer, but two mainstays are Jane and Shannon, who really helped run this hotel so that it is a beautiful place to come to first thing in the morning. And you're made to feel very, very welcome coming in here. And it's the way that it should be. We all enjoy our work here. We're a bit raw. We haven't been going long enough to put the bits and pieces smoothed out the way that we should, but we are getting there. And we are trying our hardest with limited funds and with a limited staff, limited human resource, to try and keep things on the steady, so that Lewes and the region around it, and for that matter, we broadcast, and we've got a lot of people who follow us in other parts of the world. We want to keep a service that you will enjoy and that you value coming out of this historic hotel. And this hotel is where Tom Paine, the radical adventurer, while he was here, customs man, formulated his ideas about the rights of man. His idea was that there should not be royalty, that it was a divine right of man, that the average man should have a say in his governance. And he was propounding that to Benjamin Franklin one day in London, and he passed the then Houses of Parliament, and he said to Franklin, that's where the common man should have a voice, and there should be a chamber in there called the House of Commons. Strike a bell? Yeah. Well, they've got themselves into a bit of a mess at the moment, but nonetheless, that is the heritage of this hotel and of Tom Paine. Not apparently a very likable man, a bit of a bully, in fact, and certainly it would buttonhole you and talk your ear off anything to do with the rights of man if he could get hold of you. So that's why we broadcast from here, because it is outside. There is a plaque that says it is the cradle of American independence. But it also, because of Paine's teaching and many more who pass through these doors, a fountain of democratic processes and thoughts, not least of which is us. On Mirador Television, we do not. The only reason that we would stop anybody from having their say, and in fact, we've got a couple of radical presenters who use time to make their own viewpoints. The only thing we won't let people do is libel. You cannot libel somebody and by telling an untruth and trying to make it sound like fact. But you can say more or less what you want when it comes down to your philosophy of life or your political philosophy or whatever. That is permitted. And that way we keep the roots of democracy alive without being silly and badgering people in the streets. Oh, yes, indeed. Now, if I can, I'm going to see if I can... I'm going to see if I can play you the program we put together for this particular day a few years ago, and it's tucked away in a file. And what we've got to do is to find the file. But it's not the easiest thing just after you've had a catastrophic collapse of your of your own systems But here we go. Remember that this was done 2 years ago, but nonetheless, it is as pertinent now as it was then.
If I should die, think only this of me, that there's some corner of a foreign field that is forever England. There shall be, in that rich earth, a richer dust concealed, a dust whom England bore, shaped, made aware, gave, once her flowers to love, her ways to roam, a body of England's, breathing English air, washed by the rivers, blessed by sons of home.
In Flanders fields, the poppies blow. Between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place. And in the sky the larks, still bravely singing, fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you, from failing hands, we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high, if ye break faith with us who die.
Outside the sun was hot. The world looked bright. I heard a radio and someone laughed. I did not sing or laugh or love the sun. Within the quiet room, I thought of him, my father killed, and all the other men whose luck was at the bottom of the sea.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
There we are. That is our commemoration of this day, the 11th day of the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, the end of World War I. Stephen Catlin points out that although that is the date and time that the original armistice was signed, that it was another 4 years with a renewal each year before the final agreement, the final armistice, was signed, and we were able to get back to a normal way of life. And that would fit in nicely because I understand that the War Memorial was built in 1922. So 18 to 22 is the memorial would have been started or built just at the time that the armistice kicked in full time. So yes, today is a signal day, a day in which war ceased, the shooting stopped, the killing went away, the troops came home, peace settled once again upon these shores. And the fact that it took another 4 years to eventually resolve just shows how when the shooting has to stop, so it is that people then have to get down and negotiate the fine detail. Nothing is ever as simple as it would seem. Nothing is ever as simple as it would appear. And so the pen pushers had to get in and take over where the generals and the ground soldiers had been slogging it out in the mud just 4 years before. I found it very touching. I am appreciative of what those people back then, 100 years ago. Yes, 2022 is a particularly emotive and signal year because this is the year that the fighting really did stop, that the agreement was put into the statute books, if that's the way one has to say it. And so this is a special year. Dear, 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 dear. You're watching Mirador Television. I'm Keith Hayes. Today, our program is dedicated to remembering those who fell in the First World War and the Second World War and intermediate wars, including the Falklands War, of course, and that we understand the privations that those soldiers went through, particularly in the First World War, where you could drown in the mud, apparently. How awful to be plucked from your village, to be plucked from your land, and to be sent into those sort of conditions. It's horrific, horrendous, but they did it. And as one quote, we gave our todays to preserve your tomorrows. And so they did. And perhaps right now, because we are under economic stress, it demonstrates just how fat and sassy we've become. That we find it very difficult to put up with privations, the way that our forefathers, our forebears did, to try and keep everything going the way that it should be going. We have to take a look and see what we've got in the back pocket, as it were, and certainly we have a little bit here, a little bit there. I came across these. In fact, I think I did. We actually, I've got it down here as a social ad. I'm not quite sure what it is. I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to play it. Let's see. I know what that is about. And in fact, we will not play it. What we did was in 2 years ago, we actually broadcast via all iPhones, all smart TVs, and around the world. As they said, or we were able to say, we had 174 million potential viewers. Nothing like that right now. And we were letting people know how to access that. Now, we do hope that we will actually get back to those heady days when people can get us all over the place, not just social media. But in the meantime, it would be very naughty of us if we suggested to you that we have before we have any definite plans. That is a little a promo that we shouldn't shouldn't use. I tell you what. Let's take a relaxing moment because we show model railways, real railways, and the views from the carriage in our travelogues. And I've got one here, which is not too long. Might help you enjoy some of the country way, way, way beyond Lewes and over the clouds. Well, there we go. And unfortunately, I've noticed in just monitoring that we are seeing a little dip in the quality of the picture that we're turning out. And I'm not quite sure. I think that's associated with everything that has been going on this morning, with us losing everything for a little while. But we hope that that everything will just stick with it, and will give us a half decent reflection on this very important day. I am not quite sure how we will handle the Cenotaph, the service. We may have to video and put it together to rebroadcast because there is something called 4G, and the 4G seems to be a victim of the playing up bit. But we will actually get the ceremony to you. Now, is looking again is that the picture has come back again. Why it comes and goes like that, I don't know. And our guru is also a bit mystified. We have got some other plans to try and alleviate this. I'm going to have my little sip of beer. I hope that we will get Melissa from New York. I think we're all anxious to find out what's happening with American politics because it has such a direct bearing on us. And we hope that she's around, but we do appreciate that it's 4 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes hauling herself out of bed for the good of Mirador Television and Lewis is just a little beyond the pale. Now, let me tell you one of the things that's going to happen next week is the energy sector. The heating situation is pretty key to our survival, and it is in a mess. It is an absolute mess. And on Wednesdays, Stuart Dolby, former Financial Times journalist and an expert in energy and power and renewable energy particularly, gives us a blow-by-blow description of what's happened over the week. And he will be doing that next week. Also, Stuart has a little program called A Conversation with Stuart Dolby. And he taps into his background from around the world and asks interesting people from his past, people who have done interesting things like covered the Vietnam War, who have served as journalists in Northern Ireland, as indeed I have, and indeed Stuart has. So there are all these people who are floating around and very much in keeping with Stuart's own background, that he marshals up and starts to chat to them and find out what makes them tick and what they think of some of the places that they've been and been in great danger. Is that now that, as they put it, peace has broken out. So keep an eye open for that. Liza Page produces her Everybody's Got a Story, and some fascinating interviewees she's got as well, and particularly people from the the concentration camps during the Second World War, the Nazi death camps. I poke around and try and bring you interesting stuff, a little here and a little there. I'm normally on a Monday and a Friday. Today I stepped in because, well, the person that normally would do this has gone to lunch. and we'll be back in the not too distant future. But that is Mirador for you. You never know what's going to happen. You never know who's going to be here. All I can tell you is that we are a list of characters and real characters, and with a different view on news items, if you like, to those held by others. All legitimate, all controversial, all well thought out and examined, so that we can give you at least an alternative view. That's not the purpose of the station. It's just the way that it happens with some issues. The station tries very hard, as we say. We are parochial. We're local, not parochial. We look at local issues that, if we were broadcasting to New Zealand, would be of much interest to the New Zealander as it would to the Louisian. That we look at things which affect us, but also will affect the greater community out there. And I am very, very happy to say that we've now got Melissa, and there she is. Hello, Melissa.
Hi,
How
Keith.
are you?
How are you?
I'm
morning.
not too bad. I'm preparing for our service, which takes place at 11 o'clock, the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in
Yes.
2018. So we will probably love you and leave you at 10:30 so that I can get down there and check on what's going on. But may I say that you're looking as lovely as ever this morning.
Well, thank you, Keith. You're
and-
looking
and
lovely as well.
you just pulled yourself out of bed, God bless you, and you look beautiful. I've been up for some time and I don't look beautiful at all. I'm still in this horrific state of stupor. Now, there are lots of interesting things happening in the United States, but I'm going to stay away from politics slightly, because I understand that your economy improved somewhat.
Yes, there were better than expected inflation results. So inflation is slightly lower than we thought it was, which is, yes, very good news. The markets responded very well. And so, and it's very possible that any upcoming planned interest rate hikes by the Federal Reserve might be not quite as large, or maybe not at all. So they seem to be working. So
yes,
good news.
we are 0.02 down. The powers that be say, don't panic, we're not in recession yet. But it does look as if we're actually going to hit it before we start to climb out.
Right. It could be short-lived. Could be a short-lived one. So it's a lagging indicator of how the economy is doing presently. So could be just short-lived.
Yeah. What is there any the analysts, are they giving any reason why inflation isn't as
I think that
was.
I think the interventions by the Federal Reserve are working. People are pulling back a little bit. With higher interest rates, certainly the housing market is stabilizing itself. You've got 30-year mortgage rates just above 7%. That's, people can't handle that, so they're probably putting off buying a home, and stopping the housing frenzy that we had a couple of months ago. So, and I think maybe people might be pulling back a little bit, although we've got the Christmas season. We'll see how that goes. We don't want it to be a disaster, certainly, but Yeah, the price has got to stabilize. I think people are just done. People are done. They can't do anymore. Just can't do anymore.
I was just pulling down some programs, preparing them for the Christmas period, which we're not going to start on this station until December. Ridiculous starting it in November. But who did I come across but one Melissa Conti and SantaCon? Is that going to take place again this year?
Well, I'm sure it will, but I won't be here. I'll be with you.
Oh,
All of well,
wonderful.
you in a sense of your country.
Well, you are coming to Lewis, aren't you?
I will come to visit. Yes,
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 of course
I
you
will
will.
come to visit, and so will Connor, my son. So
Yes, that's great. Yeah, not least of
yeah,
which is I will in the next couple of days see if I can. If you will give me the specific dates you're going to be here, I will try to get your master brewer, your son, together with the master brewer of Harvey's,
wonderful.
because they are going to compare the beer that you've made or your son has made based on a visit about a year ago to Harvey's here in Lewis. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, he visited 1 year ago, and it'd be very nice for him to come back. He really loved that tour. I just loved it. So, and I'm
Now,
sure the head brewer enjoyed it as well.
yeah, well, he's a very nice man, Miles Jenner,
Yes,
and
yes,
very thoughtful. And I know that they got along very well together. And
yes,
of
they
course,
did.
it was through the kind offices of Stephen Catlin,
Yes,
our recent mayor, who, incidentally, for those people, because a lot of people ask me, they know I know Stephen very well, and they ask me if I see him, and he is not very well at the moment, unfortunately. So
mm,
I'll have to pass that on. But nonetheless, he's a man who sparkles in the eyes and is always bouncy. So he keeps some of his pain and some of his illness from people. But I'm
yes,
sure that everybody wants to wish him well.
absolutely. What a wonderful man, very wonderful man. So I look forward to seeing him as well. Spending some time with
Absolutely,
Stephen.
he wouldn't miss your visit for worlds, and a lot of other people won't don't want to miss it either. Melissa, you're something of a popular character around here. Now,
Well,
incidentally, just to keep the temper of this theme going, is Kevin decided to clean out the beer barrels this morning, and when he does that, he always says he would like me to taste it. So here I am, starting at I started at 9 o'clock this morning. Mm, mm. Drinking beer on television in the early hours of Friday morning.
well, it wouldn't be you, Keith, if you didn't.
Now, darling, tell me this, because we, in many ways, have been watching with interest in this country what's happening with your midterm elections and where this leaves Mr. Trump. I think that you have expressed your concern about his effect on American politics and American lifestyle. And I think that there's equal concern here about that as well. So, where do we stand now that these midterms are out of the way? Well, they're not totally out of the way, but where are we sitting?
I think we all can calm down now. I think Trump's reign has ended. The candidates, a lot of the candidates he endorsed, lost because of their connection with him and his nonsense with claiming he lost the election in 2020. People are fed up with his nonsense, and he's just become poison to people now. He's even being urged by his advisors not to run in 2024, not to make the announcement yet. There's a close race in the state of Georgia. Why, I don't really know, but for some reason, there's the two candidates are running neck and neck. One of them was endorsed by Trump, so we're going to see what happens there. I think it might end up on the side of the Democrats, and The Trump
Right.
endorsed candidate will probably lose. But Trump has really lost his luster. People are tired of his nonsense, and he's just acting so erratic and foolish. And compared to his present rival, Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, who's much far more dignified leader. I may not agree with everything he has to say, but he's certainly far more dignified than Donald Trump. In some ways, that might, in some ways, if you don't like his policy, could make him more dangerous. But at least he's much more dignified, certainly.
Right.
So.
Yes,
I don't think we don't have to worry about Donald anymore. Donald's going to fade into the background.
Yes, yesterday's man.
Yes.
Tell me one thing that has, as you know, I've spent some time in Russia, and I'm quite close to Russians still. One thing that has alarmed me is Joe Biden saying to Zelensky in Ukraine, take your foot off the pedal and let's see if we can broker a deal. My knowledge and my feeling of Vladimir Putin is that he would say, oh yes, let's go to the table, and then having recouped his forces and regained his strength, said no deal, and back he will go onto the front line again. Now, what's your feeling? What's America's feeling about Biden's view on the Ukraine war?
Well, I am absolutely sure and positive that none of our armed forces are going to take the foot off the gas pedal and expect that Putin is going to do something honorable. We all know that's just not going to happen. Yeah. It's just, Zelensky's even offered to have more talks as well. So they have talks, they talk, they fight, they talk, they fight. But rest assured, no one's taking the foot off of any gas pedals here. It's just talk to the rest of the world. That's all it is. Because we're not going to take our foot off the gas pedal. Our military will never do that. No, won't happen.
Right. So you're not that as concerned as I am.
And certainly Zelensky has even said just recently, I think it was maybe yesterday, we don't trust them. But there was that key battle that Russia's backing off a little bit, but there's always a reason why. They're probably going to spend a little more time to bring in the conscripts. But what were the losses? 200,000 troops? Absolutely absolute insanity. And for what? Yeah. And for what? No reason.
Yeah.
Nonsense.
I sometimes think that it's not just Putin, but a good many of our world leaders at the moment is for what? They really don't know what the hell they're doing. They're faffing around. And yes. It is we have a columnist here called Little John, and he's very acerbic and gets to the point. And basically, really, what he's saying is what I've been saying is we've got a lot of people in politics who really shouldn't be there. That we've got not a very clever layer of people at our helm, and that's partly why we've got some problems. Now, it was said, and actually, you've expressed disappointment occasionally when Joe Biden went in, that he was just the man that had to be there because Trump wasn't. Right. What's the view of Biden? Because he will run for a second term, won't he?
I hope he won't. Listen, we're all going to get older, if we're lucky to live that long. But at a certain point, you just have to say, let me allow younger leadership to come in, because the role of a leader is a very, very intense role. Now, you might be intellectual enough, but it's about stamina. And I'm sorry, just Joe doesn't have it. Joe's tired. Joe just needs to stop. I think he got a bit of a boost from the election results. He didn't lose it wasn't a red wave that came in and took over. as everybody, was predicting.
Yeah.
And so he's feeling a bit vindicated right now. And I just don't, I can't see him winning. I just can't. I don't think the reason he's in office right now, as you mentioned, is, there was a vote against Trump. And people just wanted a little bit of relief from all the nonsense, all the ridiculous tweets and all the bluster and the lies and all the nonsense. And so people just wanted, listen, people would have voted for a corpse. Honestly, they just needed a little bit of relief. Oh, anyway, that's my view, my humble view.
Let's just follow on our themes before we go back and talk about that for a minute. How is our NHK correspondent doing?
Doing really very, very well. He's really become a valued employee in the unit. He covered the New York City Marathon. He covered the election, some of the election results in Michigan that were abortion related, and he's just continuing to be a very, very valuable asset. Understanding American culture, being able to relate to officials, because there are definitely cultural differences. Not one is not better than the other, but there are definitely differences, and he's this wonderful liaison between America and Japan, because he understands Japanese culture as well.
Yes. How is he interpreting Japanese culture? I mean, we always laugh a little in the West at the fact that the Japanese bow to one another. And I can remember, though, that I think it was Daiwa Europe when I was working at Reuters. It was one of our favorite places to go and get stories. And it was explained to me that the senior man bows fewer times than the junior man. In other words, the junior man has to bow more times than the senior man.
Right.
And that's when you see the bowing protocol.
Right.
What does he have to do?
I don't think he does too much bowing. He's American. He's got reverence for those who have risen to the top through hard work, usually. So he's a very respectful individual, but they expect him to be American, not Japanese, but understand Japanese culture.
Right.
Right. So, and he does a very good job of it. Right. And he speaks Japanese all day.
Now, his next step, he hopes, is to go and be faster than sound. Where are we with that?
The review board, the pilot review board, met this week, and they'll be announcing their decisions in maybe a week or two. So we will know then. But right. His application was in fact reviewed, so which is a very good sign. A lot of times they'll put a pile aside that they're just really not going to consider at this time. So I think, and then he's also the U.S. Marine Corps is also interested in him as an aviator. So we'll see.
Oh gosh, he's a very popular young man.
Yes, he is.
Like his mother.
I guess so. There are some parts of your country where I'm actually quite popular.
Indeed you are. Perhaps just to explain to those viewers, we are building, we are getting more and more viewers each week, I'm happy to say. It's a slow process, but we're getting there. So those people who perhaps are new to our output of our programs, I should explain that Melissa, who is our regular correspondent and has really been associated with Lewis Television for about 8 to 10 years. But her son, we follow because he is representative of a young American. And to follow the sort of career path of a young American is of interest, I think, to younger people here to make comparisons. But he is going to, we believe, he will be flying jets for the Navy, I think. Those whiz bang woo woo, you blink and they're gone and they're back again type jets. So he's going to be moving around the world very fast. But in the meantime, he has become a journalist, and he has got a job being an American reporter for NHK. NHK is the English language. Well, they've got Japanese as well, but it's the English language service for the major broadcaster in Tokyo. And strangely enough, I'm quite interested in seeing what he does because for my first year back in London, I also worked for the business program for NHK. So I want to see how he makes out with them. It appears very good. But what we're doing is each week I ask Melissa to give us a little background on where he's at the moment, so that we can maintain a watch on his career and hope that might be of interest and useful to young people here. I know that young Max is fascinated by it, and he's just 19, so you can tell Connor that he's a role model for at least one chap here. Max has got a day off today, and almost his entire family have got birthdays. So I think they're all meeting tonight for one great big birthday party.
Oh, nice. Very nice. That sounds wonderful. That sounds wonderful. Yeah, I think Connor is, and I don't know how this would translate in your country. He's the kind of young man who will not stop. If he wants something, it doesn't matter what's happening on the outside. He will not stop till he gets what he wants.
He's determined.
Yes. It doesn't matter what's going on at the moment. Now, he might be fearful at times, but puts those fears aside and no, things change. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to get what I want in my life.
Yeah. Well, I'm not quite sure. I find it difficult to read the temper and the mood of younger people here. One thing I do know that I'm very critical of, and that is that Tony Blair in 1997 decided that everybody in this country should be able to get a university education. And what's happening is that a lot of people are getting degrees, but they are not properly trained for the job. And that's particularly true in journalism. So I am very interested to see how he's making out as a journalist, because there are a lot of youngsters in this country that say they're journalists and aren't. And that's disappointing.
Right. I mean, I think it's, he was certainly raised by two journalists. So he understands the business. He understands what's at stake. For him, it's more, I'm telling you the story from just as unbiased a perspective as I possibly can. And that's not oftentimes how people go about it. And I know we're human and we all have biases, but you really try to resist that as a journalist because you want to inform the public so they can come up with their own opinion. You want to try to avoid giving your own opinion because your own opinion may be narrow and maybe inaccurate. So that's what he strives for. He'll look at a situation, and a lot of times a journalist, the correspondent he works with might say, let's interview only these kinds of people, because she's got a predetermined idea of what the story should be, but that's not what should be happening.
Yeah.
So, as you know, and I know, as journalists, my being a former journalist. So.
Well, it's Stuart Dolby, who isn't in today, but when he sits down with me in front of this camera, it takes all of 2 minutes before he turns to me and says, "You stupid boy." I got my own critic. But it's a great leveler.
Well, I mean, Stuart's, when you get older, your opinions solidify. And so it's a little bit more difficult to be unbiased. So he clearly leans in a direction. I clearly lean in a direction now.
Yeah.
So we can be editorial writers and opinion speakers.
Yeah.
But the
One of
young
the interesting
journalists,
things about the liberals and the soft left always complaining about oh dear, look, the media are biased and so on and so forth. But strangely enough, the history of British journalism is that we are quite biased as journalists. First of all, the roots of journalism go back to Charles I, and anti-monarchists who wanted to have his head cut off, which of course happened eventually, used to be pamphleteers, and they would write these anti-monarchy tracts, and then go and hammer them up on a doorpost, and then run like hell, because if the king's men caught them, they immediately have their heads cut off. So it was a very biased profession in those days. And now, of course, what we've got, which is quite different to you, is we have 8 newspapers, which I review every morning, is leaning from those that would be considered perhaps nudging the far right to those that are nudging the far left, and that there is a whole range of views in between, and that
right.
those newspapers don't try to hide their particular leaning towards one view or another. So we aren't pristine pure in this country, not the way that you
We
are
aren't either. We aren't
down the
either.
line. Eh?
This is why I will oftentimes just only read Associated Press or Reuters, and then maybe I'll read the New York Post or something to see how biased they are. Yeah.
Yes, it is interesting. I
But
mean,
just
I'm
give me
not
just give me the facts. Just give me the facts. I don't need your opinion. I can come up with my own based on the facts.
Right now, it's coming up to 10:25, and just for once, I beg your indulgence, and because I do want to get down to the war memorial. But one of the other things that helps us understand the culture is the parties you go to, and what you eat and drink there, and what people are talking about, and what sort of parties they have. Now, you had a party on bonfire night, while we were busy doing whiz bangs here and having that sort of party, you were having a party at home. Right.
Yes.
What did you eat and drink? How many people were there? And what happened at it?
Well, I ended up going somewhere else. I think it was because I don't really, I don't like to cook. And I was going to be asked to do so. And I said, well, why did I come to your place? Yeah. So,
Well done.
I just, I didn't have the time to go out and really get everything ready and buy everything. And so we all just met somewhere else, and it was very lovely.
And what did you eat?
Just party food here, just, little snacks, crisps, cookies, gosh, I sometimes I can't remember one day from the next what I ate. It might have been like some Italian baked ziti pizza, things like that, which I wasn't about to really cook.
Yeah, well, of course, you've got an Italian heritage, haven't you?
Yes, and I guess lots of folks like pizza and become sort of American, really. So, yeah,
Well,
it
now,
was fun. It was a lot of
I'm
fun.
not sure whether you're going to be here on the 22nd of December, but Mirador, because this is such a wonderful old hotel, and you know what it's like, is what used to be known as the Farmer's Bar, is wood-paneled, blazing fire, wooden beams. It's a lovely room. So we're going to have a choir sing carols.
Ooh,
We're going to invite
nice.
some people. And God willing, is if we can get our act together well enough, we're going to try and do a half decent television presentation of it. So
Nice.
we're looking forward to that.
Very nice. And maybe well, let me coordinate with my my colleague.
Right.
And yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Are you going to be visiting your club during the season?
I don't know. I do have to go to London a couple of times, but with all the strikes and so on, and also with my commitments here, getting up to the Travellers has been quite difficult. And my particular group of people, with the exception of our mutual friend, have not been going themselves much because of illness. But I mean, I always can just hop on the train if other people are going to be there. So perhaps we can actually make an arrangement to meet in London, which would be absolutely terrific. Absolutely terrific.
That sounds true. And we can go to the Cheshire Cheese.
Oh yes, we'll take you down on the Fleet Street.
We have to remember that famous photo that we took.
Absolutely, yeah. Yes, I drag that photo out from time to time.
Yes, so we'll reenact it.
Yes, just one thing, as you know, I always say that we have no isms on this program. And when we were negotiating with the choir to sing the carols, there's a lovely lady, and she said, "Well, I actually am choir master of two choirs. One is an all ladies choir, and the other is a mixed choir. The mixed choir comes from Brighton. The all ladies comes from Lewes." So I immediately said, "Oh, I quite like the idea of an all ladies from Lewes." So that's exactly what she's going to do. They're going to find some Dickensian clothes. So we got an all ladies choir singing carols, dressed up in 19th century clothes, and being able to stand in front of a roaring fire and do the whole thing as if we're back in Dickensian times.
That's wonderful. I mean, as you know, that was my background. I was a vocal performance major in college.
Indeed.
So I'm going to be very, very eager to hear. And so very excited. That's lovely. I love choirs.
Melissa, it's now 10:30. I don't want to miss the things that are going on below, and they do sort of march out quite early. So I'm going to actually finish off the program for today. But as usual, it's marvelous having you from the United States, and we were so very pleased that you joined us briefly on Bonfire Night. We didn't have our great moments of glory because of technical problems on Bonfire Night, but certainly you were one of the highlights of our particular presentation. And we'll see you next week.
Yes, very well, very good. Have fun today. Enjoy the programs.
Pass on Mirador Country's regards to Connor, and particularly if he gets into one of those high-speed jets. We all want to come and have a ride.
Have a good week, Keith.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Okay, there we go. It's 10:30, and we are ready to bail out now and go down to the War Memorial. It'd be 11 o'clock before anything happens there, but nonetheless, we do intend to get ourselves sorted so that we're ready. We are ready to. What should we say? I don't know. I'm struggling here because I had hoped that we might end with something from the day's meaning. That is the memorial, war memorial service today. The 11th hour, the 11th day of the 11th month, 11/11/11, and that will be the theme this year, as it always is to other years. Are we able to end on a high note? It is difficult to say. It is difficult to say. I don't think so. we lose things as we go along, and it's unfortunate that in doing so, we don't have them at hand to do nice things with. I'm rambling. Never mind. Is what we will do is we will end off with just our usual sign off. The and a beatific smile from me. Until Monday, go with God. Go with your God. Have a good weekend. Celebrate a second time Sunday afternoon, 3 p.m. Yet the other half, if you like, of Memorial Day. Not Memorial Day. Yes, it is. It's a Memorial Day, isn't it? Toodle pip. Bye-bye.